This episode of Hot Pursuit features a special guest, Officer Justin Russell. Officer Russell was embedded with the Orange County Fire Authority Investigations Division for 7 years. He worked as a liaison between the investigations unit and local law enforcement partners. This episode focuses on a case involving a vehicle fire that occurred in March of 2020. The vehicle was found fully engulfed in flames in a cul-de-sac in Irvine. The registered owner claimed the car had been stolen from his garage while he was sleeping. Listen to the full episode to hear how this mystery ends. Liar, liar, car on fire. This is Hot Pursuit.
Stories from the fire investigations frontline.
This was a type of unpredictable weather event the Orange County Fire Authority had trained for.
Firefighters responded to the 2200 block of South Susan Street with a report of a commercial structure fire.
Fire investigators are still working on their full report about the cause of the fire.
To find out why those fires started and how to prevent them, investigators need to pick through the debris and answer important questions like how did the fire start and where?
The suspect was arrested and charged with 4 counts of arson as well as reckless endangerment.
Welcome to Hot Pursuit, the podcast where we dive into the mysteries and investigations of fire-related true crime cases of the Orange County Fire Authority Investigations Division. I'm Sophia Champeau.
And I am OCFA Fire Captain and Fire Investigator Scott Coleman. And together, we'll take you behind the scenes of some of Orange County's most fascinating and often chilling fire investigations. From arson to accidental fires, we'll explore the evidence, the suspects, and the untold stories that emerge from the ashes.
Every episode will bring you a new case, breaking down the events that led to the fire, and talk to the experts, including fire investigators, law enforcement, and forensic specialists, to give you an inside look at how these cases are solved. Just like you, I'll be hearing these stories for the first time. So sit back, relax, and join us as we uncover the hidden truths behind some of Orange County's most intriguing fire investigations.
This is Hot Pursuit.
Welcome back, Scott. We're back with another episode.
Yes, we are. This is going to be one that I think you're going to enjoy as well.
I can't wait to hear it. And here we have a special guest.
Yeah, he's special in many ways.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, excited to have Officer Russell here. I'll let him do his own introduction, but I think it's important that you understand he was embedded in our investigation unit for approximately 7 years and took what was supposed to be a more juvenile fire setter role and grew it into this thing where that position has become like we can't move forward without it. It adds a lot of value to our section and the communities of Orange County. So we've done a bunch of cases together, many of which are going through the court process now, so we can't speak to those. But he does have a couple really good cases that I thought would be great for us to unpack and see how we came to these conclusions. But I'll let Justin introduce himself.
Welcome, Justin.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here. Yeah, so like Scott said, I've been a police officer now going on a little over 20 years. All my time spent at the Irvine Police Department. A lot of different roles throughout my career, but the one that obviously is near and dear to my heart was the 10 years I spent assigned as the arson detective, and spent literally here at OCFA headquarters for a majority of that time. The goal was to help liaison between the investigations unit and local law enforcement partners, both obviously from my city, but then also countywide wherever Orange County Fire had a contract city. So I spent a lot of time growing relationships, helping the Orange County Fire investigators, and really building that program to where we could get it in the eyes of the district attorney and the criminal filing world, really bring validity to what they do and the cases that they develop.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for being here. That being embedded in our investigation section sounds very unique from an outsider. Is that really unique in the government space or in the fire?
I'll say yes, but you've got more on that.
You know, it seems to be kind of a normal thing more on the East Coast with fire and police working together and sharing some of those assignments. Out here on the West Coast, you'll have law enforcement agencies that'll have a liaison. They'll assign a detective arson to do follow-up on and work those cases, but oftentimes those particular detectives have an additional caseload. Might be crimes against persons, might be property crimes, wherever it kind of fits in for that particular agency. So as you can imagine, they're already pretty busy with the rest of their caseload. And then, the fire investigators come alongside and they go, hey guys, we have this, pretty righteous arson case. And they may have worked zero or a very small amount in their career. So it can be difficult to kind of bridge those gaps, get the buy-in and get the law enforcement agency to understand kind of the importance of that particular investigation. And it's no fault to any of the entities. That's just the nature of the business. So having somebody embedded really brings the ability to kind of speak. We have different languages and
More acronyms.
yeah, lots of acronyms, but being able to talk police officer to police officer on behalf of the fire investigators so that understanding is better between the two entities. So I'm
going to jump in. He's being a little bit humble here. We've actually been teaching together for a number of years now. We've actually gone all over California.
Yeah.
And one of the classes that we'll teach together is called the Awkward First Date. And it's
What an awesome name
because
for a class.
we never know what law enforcement's thinking. Law enforcement doesn't speak fire investigator needs. And so we're like,
Okay.
how do we bridge this gap? So he actually helps teach in the state course that I teach called legal proceedings. He'll teach newer fire investigators all about, search and seizure, how to not violate someone's civil rights, how to properly look at the penal code, all these things. I give them a lot of time in that class, and it's one of the favorite sections. The students are, man, I really enjoyed that because now I understand when I interact with law enforcement. I thought they knew all this stuff, and they think I know all that, and then we're just sitting there looking at each other. But now I know how to engage it. It's really good. And he's so effective that we were actually in Cambodia earlier this year.
Oh, wow.
We went back and we helped with their firefighters who are also police officers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why I said, hey, why don't you come with me on this?
They do things different over there. All of their personnel go to the National Police Academy, and then they're kind of bifurcated after that, and they have the fire police, and then they have police officers.
Oh,
And so it's
interesting.
really, really unique from us, that particular standpoint, but really kind of spoke to what Scott and I were already doing. And when that opportunity presented itself, it was a little odd. It was, are we really going to go to Cambodia of all places? But we were treated like royalty over there. Such a tremendous reception. People were amazing, genuine, took care of us. The class was well received. We had an interpreter the whole time, so that certainly helped. Otherwise, we would have been dead in the water. And it was just a great learning experience, understanding that what we have and kind of the model that we were able to build during that time, both with Scott and his agency coming over to OCFA and then me being embedded in the section, really just brought it all together. And it just made sense when we were over there in Cambodia. It made things a lot easier to understand where they were coming from, what they wanted.
That's awesome.
Just for you, just so you understand what embedded means, he physically has an office in our investigation section. It is his. He has a investigation vehicle, unmarked vehicle. He has the same capabilities to help us in performing origin and cause investigation. He's gone through a lot of the similar training. So they are literally embedded. I mean, he has a full set of OCFA helmets and dig out clothes that indicates he's part of OCFA, which is really phenomenal. And it's become something other agencies that I know through our personal phone calls that we get would love to mimic, because it takes both sides of that coin, my law enforcement side and then my investigation side.
That's incredible. Yeah, there is so much crossover I'm learning as we go through these cases, and whose lane's what and how can we help each other without getting in each other's way, but also respecting each other's boundaries. Yeah, it seems like it could be a challenge, like you said, an awkward first date.
It is. It's a great name. It's a great name for that class.
Awesome. Shall we get started on the story? Because
All right.
I can't wait.
Are you ready?
I was born ready.
So, Justin, it's your case. I did help a little bit in it. I went with the interviews, but just start from the beginning. And then I would like to interject during the interviews because I thought it was hilarious
Sure.
as much as I helped you. So go ahead.
So in March of 2020, in the early morning hours, approximately 3:15, a vehicle was found on fire. And the vehicle was burning at the dead end of kind of the east end of our city, a street called Rockfield. And so that street at the dead end basically came up to what was strawberry fields. I don't think it is anymore at this time, but at that time it was the strawberry fields. And so patrol officers got there, obviously very suspicious. Nobody around. This car's fully engulfed. It is a commercial area, so there's no businesses open.
Is this, sorry, really quick, is this in the middle of the night, did you say? Did I miss that?
Yes.
Okay,
okay. It's about 3:15 in the morning.
Okay, perfect.
So officers get there, and as kind of was standard practice at the time, because I was in the unit, my request was, if we get something like this, give me a phone call. Even if it wakes me up, give me a phone call, because time can be of the essence, obviously, in a lot of these fire cases. So I get a call from the patrol sergeant who says, hey, this is what we've got. It's really weird. Car's fully engulfed, nobody around, no businesses open. And I was familiar with that particular intersection. For a period of time, it was real common to have car clubs go down there and congregate. And they'd be out there doing burnouts and crash into curbs or, stuff like that. So I got to be honest, when I first heard the call, I thought maybe that's what it had been part of. Somebody was out there drifting their car or whatever, and it caught fire, and then nobody wanted to deal with the police, so they just left. And so that was kind of one of the working thought processes as I started to come in. So got all my stuff, got all my gear, made some notifications to my partners. Fire investigators were also called to come down and assist. And we also utilized the arson canine at the time. So phone call was put in as a request for that, which later turned out to be an extremely valuable resource. So that was good. So we get out to the scene. It's still pretty dark. I think by the time I got there, it's about 4:30 in the morning. Fire's been put out, and meet up with the fire investigators and just develop a plan of attack. We have the fire investigation to do. We need to figure out who owns the vehicle. Where is the owner of the vehicle? Why is it up here in Irvine? Just all the pieces to the investigation that all the check boxes that you have to go through at the beginning. So I utilized my patrol partners for part of that. They had found a license plate for the vehicle and started working on contacting the registered owner. Registered owner lived south of us, down in the South County, and they weren't able to get a hold of him right away. They'd put in some phone calls, no answer. Kind of stands to reason a little bit. It's early in the morning; people are usually asleep. So,
Yeah.
We contacted our sheriff partners and asked them to go down and knock on the door for us, which they were more than happy to do. So that's going on, and the rest of us are at the scene. Us being myself, the K9, and the fire investigators. So we start our fire investigation like we would any other fire investigation, to start working the vehicle. Daylight comes, so kind of starts making things a little bit easier. That was nice. Meanwhile, the registered owner had been contacted at home and had claimed that the car had been stolen while he was sleeping.
Interesting.
So the way that works in the law enforcement world is it's now considered an unreported stolen. So because the registered owner now lives, in South County, the sheriffs are going to go ahead and take that stolen vehicle report. It's going to be entered into the system, and then we take it out of the system because we've found it.
Okay. Did the sheriffs tell you, or the deputies tell you, if he was suspicious in any way when they talked to him, or?
No,
Like,
it
was he
was-
like, oh yeah, my car was stolen? Or was he like, it's 4 a.m. Why are you at my door and my car is gone?
Based on all accounts, it came across as, open the door, just very kind of unaware. Hey, do you know where your car is? Yeah, it's in my garage. Go out to the garage. Oh, my car's not here anymore. Okay, well, and that's not uncommon. You can, those types of interactions, happen. We'll just put it that way. So there was really nothing noted by the deputies at the time. They went ahead and took the stolen vehicle report, did their kind of initial investigation, took a statement from the registered owner, and let us know. And we said, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and take the car out of the system because we found it up here. I'll be in contact with the registered owner in a little bit. I wanted to complete that investigation. So we worked the vehicle, didn't find anything that would lend itself to an accidental or unintentional fire. As a matter of fact, one of the big clues in that, and this is where the canine came in, Freedom was going around the car and just kept alerting right at the passenger side. The door was open, and and we're like looking in the debris. The glove box had melted down. Some of the dashboard had melted down, and I mean, we don't see anything. The gas tank for the vehicle, it was an older model Audi. It was a 2012 Audi sport car. So it's 8 years old, but the gas tank was in the back. There wasn't anything unique. So we're just like, why is Freedom hitting here? Like, I mean, he wouldn't come off of it.
Yeah.
Remember from the last one,
Yes.
trust your dog.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I mean, that's one of the big things that I learned,
Yes.
in my time in the unit was, we'd see Freedom, alert, and we'd be like, really?
Multiple times. You're
Yeah.
like, there's no way.
There's not a chance.
So maybe this is a dumb question, but because the car's on fire, you have to put out the fire, right? But obviously the evidence can be affected by the water. So it sounds like Freedom can still do his work with the water kind of messing with his evidence, right? But that seems like it would be pretty impactful for your guys' evidence too, right?
It can be. So there are some common misnomers that, fire will destroy all evidence completely.
Yeah.
Especially in the law enforcement world, where if you haven't had the training, gone through all these classes and developed that, you're going to look at that fire scene. And I can understand why a lot of police officers or deputies out in the field look at a fire scene and they go, yeah, there's no way. How do you, and then you start talking about, yeah, exactly. You start talking about, fire behavior, fire patterns, what evidence and how things can melt and then be protected by the debris that falls on top of it. So it's not consumed. There's just a whole myriad of things there that can be, and oftentimes are left behind. So Freedom's hitting on the passenger area, kind of around the floorboard. And so we just start digging it out, and he's still alerting. And sure enough, underneath all of that debris was the bottom portion of a red plastic gas can. And
15 out of 10, good boy.
yeah, exactly. We were just like, yes, there it is. That's, again, trust the dog. So the other nice thing is that the sides, to the best of my memory, some of the sides were still intact, which still had a small amount of gasoline in the bottom of the can. So like contents had been poured in the car. It had been set in there to be consumed, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then that stuff, the dashboard and everything fell on top of it and now melted down, but it also protected part of it. So it wasn't completely consumed.
Yeah. It actually saved your evidence for you in a
It
way.
did.
Yeah. How
It
weird.
did. So that was good. And obviously when you have something like that, again, you can't automatically just go to arson or an intentional fire just because somebody has a gas can in their car. You never know what's the operational, value of that car. Do they normally run out of gas? Is the gauge broken? Who knows? You got to ask a bunch of questions. So we collected it as evidence, but everything that we had in our investigation pointed to an intentional fire. So that was the fire investigation part. So we have the car intentionally on fire. We have the registered owner and potential victim down in South Orange County. and we'll call him Larry for now. I guess that'll work. And so there was follow-up that needed to be done. That's where my expertise came in, having been a juvenile detective working alongside our General Investigations Bureau for many, many years, and knowing that that's kind of what the program for me being embedded with them was designed for. So it was put together a game plan, and let's go have a talk. I needed to do some follow-up interviews, and the first one took us down to South Orange County to talk to the registered owner.
So you went to Larry's house?
Larry.
Larry's house.
Several of my partners decided to join. So my fire partners.
I was one of them.
We'll let Scott chime in because this really is his favorite part.
He wanted to meet Larry.
Yes. So we get down and we start talking to Larry, and Larry's cooperative. He tells us that he parks his car in the garage, although he couldn't pull it all the way in because he had a motorcycle on the front part of the garage, so the garage door was up. He said that a friend of his had told him to leave a key in the key box or in the glove box just in case he ever got locked out of his car. Yeah, I'll let that set in for a second.
I'm like, wait a second. Okay, so
how would you get the key out of the glove box if you're already locked out?
Yeah, and also if your car is in the garage and it's being blocked by a motorcycle, how someone's stealing it?
No, the garage door couldn't go all the way down because the motorcycle was at the front end of the garage, so his car was actually sticking out.
Oh, okay, got it.
Right?
Got it. Okay.
So basically, as we're talking to Larry here, the idea or what was given to us was he went to bed that night. He came home from work, went to bed, and left his car parked in and out of the garage. It couldn't go down all the way. Somebody must have found his car key in the glove box and taken his car.
As one does.
Audi.
Now he's failing to describe Larry. Now, you see Justin.
Yeah,
he's a lot
professional.
No, he's
you give cop vibes. I'm
he's
not
a
gonna
lot
lie.
of human, right? He's a lot of human. He's a lot of meat, right? He's just a bunch of human. And then I'm there. I'm not small human. And then we had another investigator. Well, Larry comes out, and he's definitely, I mean, he's probably got 20-inch arms, and he just goes out waddling. I'm like, oh, this is going to get interesting. But we're all tacked out. We have our gear on, and we approach him. We're always very cool, but we're like, hey, we're here on business. And it is a victim interview to kind of get some information.
Sure, and it's just you guys. It's not the deputies didn't go with you or anything, right? It's just you guys. Okay.
I didn't request their assistance. We had several bodies already. And
we don't want to intimidate them.
Right. Like Scott said, at this point, what do I have? I have.
You're both like 6'3" and tall. Like, talk about intimidating.
Scott's not 6'3".
I don't know, but you're my favorite person now. Thank you.
I mean, if they both walked in and they're like, I need to talk to you, I'd be like, okay.
Well, and that's where you do have to be careful from a law enforcement standpoint. At that moment in time, Larry was a victim of a stolen vehicle, and we don't have any information to the contrary. And we want to be respectful of that process. We want to be respectful to Larry in this particular situation until we find out anything otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So we go down, we start having this conversation. We're talking, things are going well. He's giving us the information. You know, we find out through this conversation, through this interview, that he actually works at a nearby commercial warehouse. So he's familiar with the area. He knew exactly what I was talking about when I told him where we found his vehicle.
You mean the commercial warehouse next to where the car had been?
Well, it was up the street a little bit, but yes,
but
it was
same general area,
within about 0.4 of a mile, give or take.
Don't be suspicious.
It would have been, this particular area would have been in his path of travel, going to and coming home from work.
Okay. So he knows exactly what you're talking about.
He's familiar with the area.
Okay.
He claims that everything is good with the car. He's current on his payment. So we're asking just kind of the normal questions that we would ask and just trying to get, in essence, a baseline.
Okay. I have a car theft question.
Okay.
As a cop.
Yes.
So typically if someone's stealing a car,
are they like, do they steal the car to do something bad with it, and then they would torch it to remove evidence of the bad thing they did, or like why do people steal cars? Because if it's, you know what I mean? I feel like that maybe not. Maybe that's a tangent we don't want to go down, but that might be.
That's a good question. It's an appropriate question. People steal cars for lots of different reasons. They might be angry at the person that they know and want to just take their car and deprive them of the property for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Some people steal a car, use it in a crime, and then try and light it on fire. Fire being the evidence cover up,
Yeah.
right? Try to get rid of the DNA or the fingerprints. Some people will burn a car for fraud. We had quite a bit of that at a couple different times. People buy a car, they can't afford the payments because they lose their job, or the economy takes a dive, fill in the blank, but they don't want to give the car back, or they're trying to claim the insurance money on it.
Okay.
So if that is the case, it can oftentimes lead to additional charges.
Okay.
So that's, we're talking to Larry. This is a story he gives. We get his work location. It's not too far away. He's familiar with that particular area, but really couldn't provide us any insight as to why somebody would steal his car. The other unique thing, too, is that oftentimes, especially with newer model cars, and granted, this one was a 2012, but I would still kind of put it in that category. It had technology that required the actual key, because there was a transmitter in the head of the key that would talk to the ignition. So you couldn't have like a shaved key. You'd be pretty hard pressed to use just your basic screwdriver or some other method.
Right.
It'd be pretty difficult to hotwire, or old school term.
Yeah.
There.
Like a physical.
Yeah.
Old school. Well,
right.
not like old school, but yeah. Okay.
But you needed the key, and that was verified by looking up some information. So as we continued talking to Larry, I started to kind of get just a different vibe, so to speak. Some of those hairs on the back of my neck kind of stood up. Didn't really make sense that just on this one night, he happened to park his car oddly with the garage door up. He just happened to leave a key in the glove box. Couldn't remember if he locked his car or not, even though he seemed like the type of guy that was pretty religious with his behaviors and his lifestyle. He worked in the area, just these little things, each little thing.
Talks like a duck and walks like a duck. Yeah. It's not a cow.
The thing is, though, he was very cordial the whole time.
Extremely.
Justin was. It was very, it's like we're talking right now.
Yeah.
No one's heart rate was up above 60. We're
right.
Just
it's
talking.
Just still very suspicious.
It's just the more you that Justin let him give a baseline, and then once you get the baseline, he started asking questions about the previous statement. It started getting a little squirrely, and I'm like, this is okay. Let's see where this goes. But he conducted most of the investigation. But there's another part that if he doesn't hit on, I have to hit on. I always teach this in class.
No, go ahead. Hit it.
Well, no, go. I want to see if you hit it.
So we continue talking, because of the kind of the feelings that I'm starting to get. I start to ask kind of some more pointed questions. Were you having any issues with the car? Was there any type of malfunction? Do you still make payments on it? If so, how much do you still owe? The car was bought and paid for. That doesn't necessarily rule out fraud, but, it kind of moves it, off center.
Yeah, less lucrative.
Yeah. So I got down just to the point where it was like, okay, I tend to be fairly transparent with folks when I'm talking to them, whether they're a victim or a suspect or somewhere in between, because I haven't figured it out yet. That's just been my style. I've often found that it's been a good approach. I mean, it's bitten me a couple of times, but more often than not, it's been a good approach. And so I let them know that, I was going to be writing some search warrants, for this case. And, one of those search warrants would be for his cell phone records. Yeah, I mean, things were going well. The conversation was cordial. I just let him know up front, hey. And I just wanted to see if that would move the needle. Go ahead, Scott.
Or like he starts sweating instantly.
No, he actually didn't even react. He stayed cool as a cucumber. And Justin told him 3 separate times, like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be pulling your cell phone records. is there anything that he goes, nope. I mean, didn't even blink or anything. And then later in, he just reaffirmed, like, I'm going to be pulling your cell phone records. Said, no. And then once again, the final time, as we're like closing up the interview, he's like, hey, just to be clear, I'm going to be pulling any and all cell phone records related to that phone. Is there anything you want to share? He's like, nope, not at all. We're like, okay, great. Thank you. I mean, is that your interpretation of how it went?
That's exactly how it went. And to be quite honest, like, I still had the same feeling. Like, that didn't sway my thought process.
Oh, really?
That he was, as we got to kind of those points in the interview, I felt that he had something to do with it. To what degree, I didn't know yet. But just based on some of the answers, like, just too many coincidences, you know, and you can't overlook that.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't do it, he had knowledge of something. That's what I walked away from. And we haven't exchanged this information until now. But because I think we left and had to go do something else.
Yeah.
He went back to headquarters. But I'm like, oh, well, it seems like he knows something about this, but I wasn't sold that he was involved in it. I'm like,
right. Like, he's
like
not going to rat someone out.
Yeah, like maybe an ex-girlfriend or something that he wants to protect. I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, I think he knows something.
To me, it seems like if someone's like, I'm going to go through your phone, I'd be like, okay, well, then just do it now. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like, I don't know.
It is a little unique. I mean, he could have gone, hey, yeah, you could look at my cell phone right now, but I can't see where that cell phone, you know, what towers it hits, how it tracks. And obviously, I don't want to give away too many of the industry
no, I won't ask as much as my true crime heart wants to know.
So we leave the house, and I think we all have varying responses to how the interview went. While he was, you know, cordial and polite and respectful, you know, didn't seem to bat an eye at a couple of these things. To me, that came across as arrogance and getting away with it. That was what I felt, and I talked to a couple of my partners on the way back up to Irvine so we could continue the matter. That was one of my very first thoughts. Man, this guy is pretty arrogant and kind of feels that, you know, however he's involved, he's shielded enough that he thinks he can get away with it. So, and I don't mind cases like that. That's great. Let's work these. This is part of the drive, at least for me, in environments like this. So, as you can imagine, getting a search warrant and making sure you have enough probable cause to get the judge to sign off on that. You got to put together your case. You have to write the search warrant. You have to go submit it to the judge. At that time, you had to, sit in front of the judge and attest, yes, everything in there is, you know, true, and, you know, raise your right hand, and then the judge signs off on it, and you serve it. So in this particular case, the search warrant was served, and as is typical, took a little while to get the results back. Took the better part of about 4.5 weeks.
4.5 weeks to get cell phone records? Yeah. Is that common? Holy moly, that's really
It depends
a long
on
time.
which company you're requesting from. Some companies, their law enforcement division is a little more speedy. Other companies are a little more difficult. My experience, and this is just strictly my experience in writing several search warrants, served, they wouldn't get you your results until about the second or third time you called. Now, in the search warrant, it says that, you know, you should be able to get that information back within 10 days. But we know that these search warrants are being served in multitudes by agencies across the nation. So there's a little bit of latitude there with the companies. But I've often found that and a couple other companies require an extra phone call or two. Hey, I'm just checking on my search warrant, you know, request.
Yeah, that seems like a legal document.
Well, I mean, it is signed by the judge. The search warrant is. So, again, I can't attest to all the stuff that goes on behind doors on that stuff. But, yeah, it took
That's a long time.
I believe about 4.5 weeks to get the information back.
Justin, was this at the time when they've even took down the amount of time you can request to see a cell phone? Remember, we used to be able to get, like, I want 30 days. And then they're like, nope, it's too much. You need to go down to a week. You remember how that kind of, they really shaved it down?
So a lot of it depends on the nature of the investigation and how that time frame relates to what you're looking at the crime that was committed. If a crime was committed, in a 3-hour window, you're probably not going to get 60 days worth of cell phone records. It's an overreach.
Well, I mean, what if it's like murder for hire?
Yeah. Again,
you can keep growing.
Oh,
Right.
you can keep going. Okay, got it.
So again, and it's also kind of crime dependent, right? If you have a more serious crime, there's probably going to be more latitude if you can justify it through probable cause to get that extra time. In a case like this, I had requested 1 week, knowing that oftentimes I'm trying to establish a pattern of life, what the normal route of travel is, kind of what does that match up with their work schedule? Is there anything where they deviate off course? And how does that pertain to a day or two after? Did they stay the same course? Is this somebody who, has a very normal lifestyle, and boom, 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 and we can rule them out by that? That's the other side to requesting information too. What if we're way off base? What if we got that feeling, but the information comes back and goes, nope, this person and their cell phone were in this location at the time, and we can rule them out as a suspect. So it's just as important either way for us. That wasn't how this case worked out, but
dream scenario.
Yeah. So we get the cell phone data back. We've got a couple programs that we can take the results, dump them into the program, and it produces a map for us, which is technology is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Back in the day, you used to have to map all the different towers and then you had to do it all by hand.
Looks like the Office thing.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable. So within about 5 minutes after getting the results back and putting them in this program, I had a map of his phone tracking before the fire, the day of the fire, and then a day or two after. I don't know how much I want to share.
Yeah, I don't know if we go too much into far that, but didn't it show communication to another number?
Yeah, so there were two things that it showed. One, the first one that I noticed was communication to another number. So I started doing some workup. Oftentimes, especially if you have a vehicle that's been abandoned, you're likely to have a co-conspirator. How did that person get away from that vehicle if they were involved? Oftentimes there's another driver. Not always. They can catch a bus, an Uber, some other thing, but
a lot more convenient with a second person.
Yeah. Yeah. It does make it easier for the getaway.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, there was another number of interest. And so I started doing some workup on that number and was able to identify that person. At the same time, because the return on the search warrant had been incomplete from I had requested the data that I had originally requested. And so they finally got that to me a couple days later. So these things are kind of going on parallel each other. And when I got that extra set of data, that really locked things down. It showed, and because we were able to put motion to this map, kind of watch the dot on the map, so to speak, travel. And it literally showed the dot going from Larry's house up the 5 freeway, getting off the freeway, being in that cul-de-sac. Because unbeknownst to Larry, and unbeknownst to me at the time too, there's a cell phone tower at that dead end. There was a cell phone tower right at that dead end.
That's really unlucky for Larry.
Yeah. It showed
and his co-conspirator,
a slight,
who I'm assuming is an ex-girlfriend or a current girlfriend. No,
oh, you'll see.
No,
oh,
okay.
You'll see.
Okay.
So he's there for about 2 minutes at that dead end, and then the dot gets back in, back down to 5, and right back home. So at that time it was okay. Larry's definitely involved.
Yeah,
Larry is definitely involved. Work up the other angle, and turns out to be a coworker of Larry's. This gentleman had gotten himself in way over his head. He was work friends with Larry, had known him for a little bit of time. And Larry had approached him and asked him to help pick him up. There's some question about how much information this gentleman knew beforehand. But, and I did an interview with him, at his home. He definitely knew what Larry had done as he was driving away from the scene because he could see the car in flames.
Yes.
From where
Hard
he
to
picked
miss.
Larry up. So at that time, I had enough probable cause to arrest Larry for the crime of arson. Well, I'd also found out through another request to the insurance agency that he had filed an insurance claim, which, as I had stated before, can add additional charges.
Yes.
For filing a false or a fraudulent claim or a false claim. So, went to Larry's work a few days later after I kind of got everything buttoned up, and arrested Larry at work.
Did you arrest Larry's work friend?
There had been a discussion with the DA beforehand, and it was determined that the DA wanted to also speak with Larry's friend about potentially using the friend as a witness versus a co-conspirator.
Oh, okay.
Which is latitude that the DA has. And so I sought guidance and wanted to kind of follow their direction on that. And that's what they had suggested moving forward. I said, that's fine by me. So pick up Larry from work, actually took some of the printouts of the mapping software and showed kind of the progression, almost like a flip book, cartoon flip book. And I remember clear as day, he looked at me and goes, I go, Larry, what do you have to say about that? I mean, this is your cell phone. This is you going up, dropping your car off, and going back. And he goes, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it right there on paper. That was his statement to me.
Yeah, that doesn't help your case.
I said, okay, Larry, you're under arrest for the vehicle arson. Took him to jail. And then about...
He skips over that part. I just want to add a little drama there. Remember, this guy's huge.
Huge, and he's at work.
He's familiar with the spot. Officer Russell is not. So I'm like, well, how did that go? And once he said that statement, I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it myself. If I'm remembering correct, he just turned around and put his hands behind his back.
He just stood up and handed you his hands?
Well, he was already out at the car, and I just presented him with this evidence, just wanted to get his statement, before placing him under arrest, if he was willing to talk to me. And, at that point, he did, to a degree, just kind of secede, just be like, okay, well, that's what you have.
So he never confessed. It was more of just,
I never
see
admitted
your
to
evidence.
it, and again, that, I told him, I go, Larry, look, I told you I was going to get your cell phone records.
3 times, Larry.
So he was arrested that day, taken to jail. He bonded out. And then I believe it was a month or two later, my time frame is a little hazy because it was back in 2020. I received word from the DA that they were going to officially file the additional charges.
For the insurance
fraud.
For
the insurance, and those are additional felonies. And so they had issued another arrest warrant for him. And so I got to go back to
you
his
got to
work
arrest
and serve the warrant. So I arrested him again.
Did he hand you his hands and turn around right away again?
No, but he very much looked like he knew. Like sometimes you just get that look like, all right, you got me, that type of thing. I don't know if he had, already seen you have a warrant paperwork in the mail or whatever the case was. Because sometimes the DA will go send people a notification, hey, you've got this outstanding issue that you need to take care of, and give them an opportunity to turn themselves in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Some people take advantage of it and some people don't. So
what was the total dollar amount for the insurance fraud?
On his 2012?
On his 2012 Audi.
Yeah,
guess what the payout was?
For his 2012 Audi in 2020.
That he picked up a felony for.
Multiple felonies.
Multiple felonies. What was the adult? What do you think?
I was going to say 12,000, but maybe like 8,000? A little lower?
Eight's
lower
right.
than that.
Yeah, well, that's $5.21.
5? Wait, that's not real. Wait, what?
Yeah.
He went to jail, multiple felonies for $5.
Well, I mean, the claim that was filed and the value of the car, and I mean, obviously he wasn't going to get that money once they determined that, you know, it was a false claim. But yeah, one of the documents I had said that the dollar amount was $5.21.
$5.21. That's crazy.
Fraud is fraud.
Yeah.
Oh no, totally.
No.
I mean, you set a car on fire.
There's no contingency on how much
Yeah.
institutes the fraud.
Right.
Totally. But to him, I'm sure he's sitting in his jail cell going,
Well, and he also had another charge
Can't
for
even buy
filing
me.
the false stolen vehicle report on the front end. That
Oh.
very first report that he filed with the deputies when they knocked on his door. You know, obviously going back, knowing that he drove his car up there,
yeah.
we were able to come back.
So false stolen vehicle report, multiple felonies on the insurance, and then the arson for the vehicle. So about how
Yes.
long did he go to jail for?
It's my understanding he didn't do any jail time. He wound up pleading out and received probation and restitution.
Oh,
Was my understanding of the finality of the case.
I was
I
going
mean,
to
the
ask.
couple nights that he spent in jail after I arrested him, those separate times.
Sure.
But
I was going to ask maybe because of COVID. Like they were, you know how they were turning everything.
yeah, I'm sure that played a part in it too.
Yeah.
But I mean, on one hand, I can kind of understand where the DA's coming from. He didn't damage anybody else's property. It wasn't like he lit, you know, multiple houses on fire, multiple vehicles. The car was in a dead end, you know. So at most, there's damage to the asphalt on the street, which, you know, we didn't pursue that angle. But yeah, it was
That's
pretty
crazy.
self-contained, but definitely not worth it.
That's
Definitely not worth
crazy.
it.
No, I was just flabbergasted during this interview. And like I said, we treat everybody really, we come from you're a victim angle. Let's get some information. And then just repeatedly, I remember saying, hey, we're going to get your cell phone. We're going to get your cell phone records. We're going to get your cell phone records. And the guy didn't blink. And I'm like, all right, clearly this guy thinks he's, because as I was walking away, I'm like, he knows something. And clearly he thinks he's beat the system.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand what we can and cannot get from your cell phone.
Yeah.
So just know that. That's as far as we can go on that.
Yeah. I don't want to dive too
Yeah.
deep into that, but
Okay. So can you clarify for me one more time why, like this $5 amount? How are we getting there? What is the?
so I can't honestly answer that particular part of why the dollar amount was so low. I think part of it, he initially had said that the car had been paid for and was already owned outright.
Yeah.
But it appeared to me that maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe there was still some money owed on it. So that left. That to me made logical sense that, you know, maybe that his initial statement wasn't entirely correct.
So basically, he was trying to get the money back out of the car by saying it was stolen for whatever it was worth, even though it was used and allegedly paid off.
He implied through the initial interview, because he never came out in any subsequent interview to say why he did what he did. I do know, and again, taking into account everything during this investigation, that when we went to pick him up the second time, he had purchased a used Bentley. So I don't know if that was maybe part of his initial thought process, where he could get some money from this car and then put it into the new one. That to me, from a logical standpoint, makes sense, but he never fully connected those dots for us. And sometimes that's a difficult part in an investigation, because my brain just wants to go, okay, motive, reason, connect all the dots for me. Let's put a nice, pretty bow on it and let it make sense for everybody. We don't always have that in the arson world. A lot of times people will do what they do utilizing fire to achieve the result, and it never makes sense to us, or we never get a complete reason.
Yeah. No, that
So-
makes sense. I mean, that's like serial killers not revealing the bodies of loved ones
Right.
once they're already in jail. Like, what's the point at that point?
Right.
But wow,
So
that was gnarly. So for Larry's friend / coworker / accomplice, so what ended up happening with him after he testified?
So it turned out that Larry wound up taking a plea deal,
Oh,
from my
okay.
understanding. So that negated the need for his coworker or friend, to be involved. The DA did call me after the fact and said, "Hey, what do you think about these couple options for the friend? We can issue an arrest warrant, move down the prosecute as a co-conspirator, and see where it goes, or we can leave it be." And at that particular time, based on the information that I had and the interview that I had with this gentleman, my request to the DA was, let's just let it be. Having that kind of hang over his head for as long as it did seemed to be pretty impactful during a follow-up, phone call with him. And I don't know that he's committed a crime in Irvine since, so it may have been pretty effective. But he really kind of gave the vibe of a man who just was helping out a friend, but very quickly realized that he shouldn't have.
Yeah, and maybe didn't understand the full scope of what he was being asked to do at the time, and quickly realized.
Right. So, yeah, and his wife was not very happy with him either.
Oh,
because she was present during the interview and just was like, why did you get involved? So we figured there were a lot of other life lessons that had been learned at that point, and the DA, took my answer and was okay with it, and he was left as a witness on paper.
Awesome. Wow. That's an incredible story. Thank you so much for joining us and telling that to us.
Glad to.
Yeah, I love that one. It involves your dog that you love.
I love dogs.
Excuse me. And then just that it turned from a victim to maybe a suspect to definitely the suspect.
Totally.
Just through that course of the investigation. With the suspect thing, he was going to outsmart us by saying what he did, but the cell phone records just produced the end result, which, even he's like, yeah, I see it now.
Well, thank you so much. Great job, Justin, and Freedom.
Yeah,
yes,
Freedom did an amazing job. So
thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you so much for listening today. We hope you join us next time. And remember, at the end of this season, we're going to have one episode dedicated to a case that is unsolved that we would love our Orange County community's help with. So be sure to tune in.